We will be having a session for the Sitecore Helix Demystified. It will be done by the Anders Laub. Anders Laub is the Sitecore MVP. Alright, SUGUAE, it's a Sitecore user group UAE, a very well-known name in the Sitecore era, and it's a group of MVPs and all the peoples. We would like to pass our deep thanks to our partners. Our motivational partner is Sitecore, and our platinum partner is Horizontal Integration. We really appreciate their constant support and motivation. Time to meet the pillars of Sitecore user group Dubai team. We call it like SUGUAE group team. We have 3 out of 5 Sitecore MVP in our group co-founders, and Nilesh have recently joined Sitecore as an employee, and Ashish Bansal and Ahmad Hab have been nominated and received Sitecore MVP award for this year. Many congratulations to all of them. We had already discussed regarding Sitecore MVC E to Z by Corey. Corey is our Sitecore MVP and he is the lead in Proficient. We had a very good coffee break, and we just got caffeinated ourselves and got refreshed to have an excellent pet session from Anders. It will be a 1-hour session from Anders. He will be talking about Sitecore Helix Demystified. And Anders is a Sitecore MVP, and he's a senior architect and founder at the Laub. And he will be talking regarding Sitecore Helix Demystified. And over to Anders. Anders, can you please go ahead and start presenting yourself? We'll mark you as a presenter.
Yes, thank you.
All right, over to you.
Yes, I will just ensure that I'm showing my right screen. Sorry, I can hear myself quite loud as echo. Great, now it worked. Perfect. And so, sorry, I'm trying to get it to share my other screen. So, sorry, are anyone seeing my screen right now? No? No. Just a second. Sorry for the wait. For some reason, I can only select one screen here. That should be correct here. And I will just start my presentation and we should be ready. Slideshow, here we go. And start sharing my screen. So now I hope someone is seeing my screen.
All good.
All good, and not my notes, but the presentation.
Yep, all fine, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you and welcome everyone. Yeah, my talk today is called the Sitecore Helix Demystified. But first I will talk a little bit about this guy, if you will allow me to change. Anyone remember this guy? He's called Fido Dido, at least in Denmark. Fido Dido, maybe, Fido Dido. Advertisement guy from 7-Up. He's a really cool guy. He's not really me, but sometimes I get reminded of him while I'm preparing for my presentations. I feel everything is cool. I know all the stuff. There's nothing to worry about. So yeah, I just chill out. And then time goes by. And yeah, back when I was a kid, I had this t-shirt with Fido Dido on it, which said, "Never do today what can be put out for tomorrow." And also watched this TED talk about procrastination being a good thing. That means, yeah, the argument was that you could just, the more you waited with accomplishing something, the more you thought about it and the better the end result would be. I don't know if it's completely true because you still need time to do what you're supposed to do. But in the ideal world, I would just lie around and wait for some ideas to pop up in my head. And that's exactly what I did. And an idea popped up, and then reality came crashing in on me. And I had to do this presentation at the Sitecore User Group Conference in Amsterdam. Yeah. Since I had been waiting for so long to get this brilliant idea about how I could do a 45 minutes talk on how I could demystify and explain Helix for everyone. Yeah, I just didn't have time to finish it properly. I did manage in some miraculous way anyway. But what I'm trying to do here is actually just to set the expectations. Yeah, why should you stay here and listen to me gibber for, yeah, roughly an hour? What is it I will talk about, and what is it you shouldn't expect from this talk? Yeah, this talk will try to demystify Helix, tell you what it is all about. That means kind of like the why of Helix. Then I will also show a tool that can accelerate your development when you're following the Helix conventions. But I will not go through everything that is covered by Helix. That is simply not possible to do within this short period of time. So now a little bit about me. Yeah, I'm already presented. My name is Anders Laub Christoffersen. I'm a Sitecore Technology MVP. Formerly, I used to work at a place called Petya, which is the sister company of Sitecore, actually where it all started back in the days, a very long time ago. Then I also worked for a brief period of time at Sitecore in the services department. Now I run my own company called Laub plus Co. Right now there isn't really a plus Co. It's for now just me. Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter and also yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. So, principles. Anyone can tell me what a principle is. What is a principle really? Let's try to Google it and see what it says. And here, definition of a principle. A fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. For example, the basic principles of justice. That means it is something really fundamental that tells something about how people perceive the world, yeah, how a human perceive the world, you could say. All major religions have some, yeah, are based on some principles, and a lot of these principles are actually shared by all of the religions. An example could be do to others what you would have them to do to you. Honor your parents. Speak the truth. It's better to give than to receive. You reap what you sow. Do no harm. Forgive. Yeah, and so on. This is what a principle is. Do no harm is a principle. How do you then follow a principle? The world is a place of constant change. Everything changes, except these principles. A principle of do no harm is the same now as it has been forever. It's universal, you could say. But how do we actually follow them in today's world? Well, laws are formed based on these principles. But yeah, it's not always a law is written down. So sometimes principles are just how it is. You could call it a society norm. Or we could use another word for it. We could call it a convention. So you can actually live your life following principles by following a set of conventions that are based on these principles. So why is it I'm talking this much about principles? That seems a bit weird. I'm supposed to talk about Sitecore and Helix and whatnot. So we also have some principles in software design. Now I'm showing this book because it's you could see it as the holy scripture of Sitecore Helix. It is called Agile Principle Patterns and Practices. This version is called in C#. It's written by a guy who is usually referred to as Uncle Bob. His real name is Robert C. Martin. Yeah, he try to Google his name if you're not familiar with his work already. There's also a ton of really nice YouTube videos from his presentations. Well, this book introduces a number of different principles in software design, principles of software design, and then also shows some patterns and some practices that ensure that you adhere to these principles. It is the same book where the solid principles are all mentioned together. This is in the first half of the book. The name solid. Now I would usually ask the audience, how many know the solid principles? Yay! I presume, yeah, at least most of you have heard this term before. And well, they're all very fundamental principles that you should know about when you're doing enterprise enterprise software. But the name itself, the abbreviation solid, I'm actually not too fond of that because it completely removed the focus from the principles just by having this fancy name solid. If you're asked, do you write solid code? Who would say no? When everyone says it's good to follow the solid principles, and as a programmer, you probably think, yeah, I'm pretty good. That means I must be following these principles, without people really getting to read them. It just becomes this, yeah, the name takes the attention away from the actual message. And in the second half of the book, actually to be more precise, in chapter 28, there's 6 other principles described that is called the principles of package design. There's no cool abbreviation for these. They're just called the 6 principles of package design. I'm receiving notifications on the screen. So yeah, so it is kind of like MVC. Uncle Bob actually has a really funny talk on YouTube where he talks about the MVC pattern and the very common misunderstandings. It's the same. Oh, MVC, that is hot right now. That's how your application should be implemented. So if you ask someone, yeah, do you use MVC? Then everyone says, yeah, because that's kind of like what is hot right now. So you don't want to be the one who doesn't do it. I will highly recommend you to, yeah, try to look up that talk on YouTube. So these 6 principles of package design, and actually also the solid principles, they're all defined to manage your dependencies in object-oriented software design. And your dependencies, why would you start to manage your dependencies? What is that? And yeah, well, it is related to something called stability as well. So to understand the principles, you also need to understand the terminology behind it. What is stability and dependencies? The 6 principles of package design, there's 3 on coupling and 3 on cohesion. Coupling means how do you make the modules or the packages depend on one another, while cohesion means what should go in a module, and yeah, how do you define the borders, the boundaries of a module, what should stay within a module. So let's first talk a little bit about stability. If someone called me unstable, I would most likely be kind of offended. Yeah. If you call someone unstable, it probably refers to that they are unreliant or you cannot count on them. But this is not how we see software stability. Being unstable as a piece of software is not bad. Let's take an example from the book real quick. If you leave a coin placed standing on its side, and you just left it there and nothing interfered, yeah, you would not usually consider it stable if you left it standing on the side on your table at home. But if you left it standing with no interferences at all, it would most likely be standing like that forever, kind of, at least. Or would it really? Standing on the side already infers that you have an implicit dependency on gravity. There's something that is up and down. There's a concept of up and down. Gravity will most likely disappear someday, some people say at least. But that will take quite a long time before that happens. So it would be rather stable. But the coin is also, the point is that the coin is also dependent on a lot of other factors. The coin will be dependent on the wind, the downstairs neighbors, and so on. And also on other things that we simply do not control. We don't control all the dependencies that the coin has. And then there are some that we control ourselves. We can also just tip the coin over ourselves. So stability is not the same as mutability. Stability is how many dependencies and dependence a module has. If there's many dependencies, it is less stable. If it has many dependents, it's more stable. That means the more that rely on a module, the more stable that module is. Or, yeah. Mutability, on the other hand, is how likely a module is to change. Stability is not the same as mutability. You can have a module that a lot of other modules depend on, but it is very likely to change because it depends on some third-party integration that you cannot get rid of in any way. So, yeah. By introducing abstractions, you can help reduce the impact of changes. Yeah, so you can, yeah. It's weird to give this presentation without an audience and just speaking into my microphone. You can actually measure stability. There's something called the stability metrics. So if you take the number of modules that depend on the module, or just objects outside the module that depend on the module, and the number of objects inside the module that depends on other modules, on other objects and other modules outside the module, then you can get a number between 0 and 1. Where no dependencies at all, you will get the number 0, and only dependencies and no one depending on it, you will get the number 1. You can simply just count you can simply just count the number of module references. And now Mike is getting a headache from all the math, so I better skip on quickly. There's many different types of dependencies. They can either be implicit or explicit. The explicit dependencies, we all know these. These are the references in Visual Studio, the references between assembly references. Visual Studio control these for us and prevent us from creating acyclic or cyclic dependencies, it's called. So that's all good. We can clearly visualize and control these dependencies. It can end up in a spaghetti nightmare anyway, but we can see the dependencies. The devil lies in the implicit dependencies, the ones we cannot really see or catch at compile time. That is, for example, a path to an item. It could be a CSS class. It could be a field ID. It is whatever textual references that you have between your different modules. If you have a field ID from a template that actually belongs to another module, then you actually depend on that other module. Even though you cannot see it anywhere, you still have this implicit or weak dependency, as I like to call them sometimes. Or simply, explicit dependencies are trackable, while implicit dependencies cannot really be tracked. Helix encourages you to make all your dependencies as explicit as possible whenever you can. I'm going to skip quite quick over this. It says that the only thing constant is change. It's a statement made by this Greek guy that you see in the background. And if you think about it, it's actually rather true. We can expect everything to change, especially our clients and their business objectives and what is important for them right now. This also means that our solutions has to be adaptable to change. So, coming back to conventions. Let's imagine that we are building a new supermarket. Let's call it the Sitecore supermarket. And in the supermarket, we have some different roles. For example, there's you, who are the architect, or let's say the floor planner of the supermarket. Then we have your staff. That's the Sitecore developers. And we have some editors and business people. We can see them as the managers in the supermarket. And we also have some end users, which is the customers in this supermarket. So now we have to come up with a plan for where to place our different products. How should we structure the supermarket? Which aisles should we have? Which departments and so on? So let's start to look at a random product. Let's try to group them by ingredient. So let's take all our products and put them in the same department depending on their ingredient. We have some grapes. Let's see what else contains grapes besides actual grapes. Well, wine. We could leave a bottle of wine in the grapes department. I think people would be able to find it. It would kind of make sense. Then we have a shampoo. This also contains grape juice. This is actually a real thing. Not the Sitecore logo on it, but a shampoo with grapes in it. And then we also have some granola. And this granola contains raisins. And raisins are actually dried grapes. Where should we place that? And it also contains grains and it contains nuts. And which ingredient is then most important? It doesn't work. We cannot structure our supermarket just by ingredient. Let's try something else. What about by their brand? Who produced the products? We could make different brand departments. That could kind of make sense. We could have a Levi's department, Hilfiger. That works. People know what these brands make and yeah, can find these kind of products at least. Let's look at another, Kellogg's. They make cornflakes, yeah. Anyone can mention another internationally known cereal producing company, like a competitor. I couldn't think of any. I know a lot of Danish, but not some brand that would be well known enough to structure my supermarket by. And who made this milk? It doesn't really work to divide by brand either. Then we have a lot of other attributes. We have by color, by width, by height, by number of calories, by how the product smells. That's just stupid. None of these direct attributes or properties of our products can be used to group them by. We have to find something that is a bit more meta, something on a higher level. So what if we try to group our products simply by their purpose? So we have, we could call it features of our supermarket that each cover a specific business domain or a specific business responsibility. We could have a greens department. We could have a snacks department and a shoes department, a clothing department, and a beer department, and so on and so forth. So that actually makes sense, to group our products by their purpose. How the individual departments then will be grouped is not that important. Within the individual department, you could group by brand, or by color, or by whatever size of the product. So this actually makes sense. You could call it the supermarket convention. When you walk into a supermarket today, you more or less expect your the products to be placed like this. This enables you as a customer to find what you went in there for. So there's a ton of benefits by following some common conventions. The end users know what they get. They know, yeah, it's a modern supermarket. It is kind of the same with the website. Your managers or your editors will have an easier time to locate stuff and know where it is used. It's much easier to talk to your staff. That means your developers, and your staff has, can be much more specialized and also talk to one another, and yeah, it's easier to find stuff. And since if all supermarkets follow the same conventions, then if you worked as a staff in one supermarket, then it should be rather easy to swap over to another supermarket and work there. That means it reduces the learning curve when the conventions are known. No one is really special in that sense, so it reduced the risk of lone heroes on projects. For you as an architect, it's much easier to extend and modify the features or departments that you want. If suddenly you're not selling any, suddenly you don't want a fruit department anymore, you can just, get rid of that one without it affecting any other features. So Helix is actually a set of conventions for Sitecore development. Here are some of them. That's the module convention, the layer convention, item conventions, template conventions. Here among I highlighted the concept of interface templates because I think this is, read the documentation. I do not have time to go through these in detail. So now we can try to demystify Helix. Time for us to get up to the ground and look at what Helix really is. Helix is not system or infrastructure architecture. It is not a software design pattern, and it is not about reusability. Reusability is a positive side effect, though. Helix is, on the other hand, a set of conventions that shows you how to structure and build your Sitecore solutions. They are made to ease maintenance and ensure the longevity of your solutions. And you can also see it as a standard for the Sitecore ecosystem. They're based on principles, but they are not principles by themselves. It's conventions. It is how you realize these 6 principles of package design and also the solid principles in your solution. That brings us to another term called Helix compliancy. We can suddenly talk about solutions being Helix compliant. If you follow the conventions, then you make your Sitecore solutions Helix compliant. That means you can take another Helix compliant solution that runs the same foundation, so to say, that runs on the same version of Sitecore and so on, and actually merge the two. They should be able to coexist. Habitat is a Helix compliant example site. SXA, the Sitecore Experience Accelerator, is also Helix compliant. If your solution is Helix compliant as well, then your solution can coexist with these, And your modules, when you're developing a module, for the Sitecore marketplace or just to share with the community, you can also ensure that these are Helix compliant. The official statement from Sitecore is, or what Helix is announced as, is Helix is the official recommended practices for Sitecore development. Note the word recommended and not best practices as would have been the old jargon. It is the recommended. The word practices makes sense in software literature. Do you remember the name of the book, Agile Principles, Patterns, and Practices by Robert C. Martin? But the word practices can also easily be misinterpreted. So maybe it should rather be Helix is the official recommended conventions for Sitecore development. The conventions might change over time. They're not completely stable. Sitecore will change, the world will change. So the conventions and the descriptions of the conventions found in Helix will also be updated and modified so they fit with the current world. Not right away, they're rather stable, but we should expect that when new technologies arrive, the conventions will also have to reflect these new technologies. If we just follow the same conventions, it will be pure gold for everyone. It has so extremely many benefits that we don't have to invent everything from scratch each time. We just have a recipe, or we know how things should be done. Helix is not all or nothing. There's no Helix police, you can say, even though I have been called it myself, the Helix police sometimes. But it is more or less just take what you like, be inspired by it. So you should not deviate too much, on the other hand, because then you lose your compliancy. Really quickly, the module convention tells you that everything in Helix is modules. It is one of the absolutely fundamental conventions in Helix. States that everything in Helix is modules. A module packages related objects just for maintenance purposes to ease maintenance. And all objects that has the same reason to change should stay together because that ease maintenance. It's easier to locate objects that is related to this certain responsibility. But the conventions, as they are described, can actually make it rather time-consuming to create a new module. And this brings us over to demo time, finally. Creating both solution and modules that follow the Helix principles can be somewhat time-consuming. So now, I think some of you at least have already noticed the Yeoman generators and some PowerShell scripts that can generate Helix modules for you real quickly. These are just great. But Yeoman, JavaScript, so on and so forth, going out to the command line, that actually scares some developers still. I don't get why, but some Sitecore developers are really hardcore Visual Studio, C#, .NET developers. So I thought about for a long time to just make some project templates that are Helix compliant. And that is exactly what I did. It was actually a whole lot trickier than what I would have thought to start out with. So now I'm going to show you this, for it's the first time I present it. I did already commit it to GitHub and left the source code out there, but it still missed a bit of testing. So let's try to create a new Helix solution from scratch. As you will notice, we have this Visual C# project type called Sitecore Helix Modules and Solutions. We're going to change the location to C:projects like that. And let's call it my new solution, just to call it something. Press OK. Up pops a dialog, and from this dialog I can pick between different available Helix templates. Since I selected File, New Project, it knows that what I want to create now is actually a solution and not just a module. So it only shows me the templates that are for a solution. We have two templates here. I will show you how a template is structured in a second. So let's try to create a Helix solution that is prepared for extending Sitecore Habitat. The 1.00 is the version of the template and not Habitat. I will move that down here into the description. The publish URL that tells if you know the gulp configuration and the publish settings targets and how they're configured in Habitat, these are variables that gets replaced in the generated files. These values that you enter here end up as something called replacement tokens. So now I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the demo gods are with me. Yay, the demo god was with me on this one at least. So I'm gonna close all document and get rid of go to meeting shrink controls. There we go. So now I have my new solution. I want to create a new module. Well, I can click anywhere here and just say add new project, and then I select the same again, Sitecore Helix Modules and Solutions, and let's call it I don't know, new fancy stuff. And I just point to the root of my solution. Press OK. Up pops the dialog again, and you will notice here that I get another selection of templates. The first one here is called a feature layer module with unicorn serialization. We have a foundation layer module with unicorn serialization and a project layer module. We also have an empty Helix module that doesn't contain anything. These are the built-in templates that the Visual Studio extension ships with right now. It is extremely easy to create your own templates. I will show that in a second. You will notice that when I start typing in a module name, then it will suggest a module namespace. When it's yellow here, it means that the value I typed in is invalid, because the module name should start with a capital letter. What was I called it? I can call it whatever. My module, like that. Here you can type the Sitecore version. That replacement token gets used in the package in the NuGet package configuration. And okay, and again I keep my fingers crossed, and bum bum. That folder shouldn't have been there. We just remove that real quickly. Whoops. But you will notice that now feature my module, we have a module. Wow, that was quick. And if we look here, it also has, that was a boring configuration file. Here it has a serialization configuration for unicorn. with a very small error in it. And save. And we also have view folder with a folder with the same name as the module, following the conventions, so on and so forth. The packages config points to the version of Sitecore that we typed in, and the template has the namespace here, and so on. So first we need to build get the NuGet packages. And while it's doing that, what was it I called the solution? I called it my new solution. See my new solution here. As you all know, it's a Habitat extension. We need to run npm install. That will probably take about a minute. I did cheat and do this beforehand, but then I didn't manage to test it, so now we're just going to do it from start and see how it goes. How long time have I been talking? For 44 minutes. Yeah, so while it's loading, I will show you actually I will show it in here. When I here click add new project and type in a random name here and OK, you will notice the settings icon up here. When I click this, I can select a templates root folder. You will have to select this the first time you run the Visual Studio extension. This is where your Helix templates will be located. When you create a new folder, it will also ask if you want to install the built-in templates, and you can reinstall or update the built-in templates by clicking this button. So this was the root of my Helix templates. I'm just going to start a Visual Studio code from in here. Bump. And then let's check out the solution here. That was the Habitat extension solution. You will notice that there is a file called a template manifest. This template manifest is where you write the name of your Helix template. You write your description, version, author, source folder. This is by default the SRC folder, but in your setup it might be called something else. You can swap in a different template engine. This is the default one. The template engine is what actually generates the project from the template. You have a set of custom replacement tokens. If you look here, that is actually the fields that is shown in the dialogues. These are dynamic. Currently, there's 3 different input types. There's text input, folder input, or selection input. I will show you the selection input in a minute. And then you can also define some virtual solution folders. Virtual solution folders are solution folders in Visual Studio that do not exist on disk. And if we go here and then look in here, you will notice that the entire content of the template is just here as files. And you can click in here, there's empty folders. These gets attached automatically to Visual Studio. If I make another folder in here, this folder will be attached to Visual Studio with that name automatically by the wizard that runs. Let's look at the gulp configuration file, for example. Open it in the same code here. Works. Gulp config here. You will notice here we have some normal Visual Studio template parameters that gets inserted. This is actually not the standard engine of Visual Studio that replaces these. This is a custom template engine, you could call it, where, for example, writing exclamation mark, this will output escape it. That means it will make double backslash for use in JavaScript configuration files here. Yeah, it's more fun to look at the feature module here. Template manifest, you can see we have the module name, module namespace, the Sitecore version. These tokens also have a suggest type. That means an implementation that suggests the value based on other tokens, and a validation type that verifies that the value is valid. Yeah, and you will notice here we have a folder called feature. Of course, that was the feature module. Then we have a folder called $module name $. So this is called whatever the value of this token is, and in code, our templates file, module namespace, this looks exactly like a normal Visual Studio template. In here, you will notice that I use GUID 1. You have from GUID 1 to 10, just like you do in a normal Visual Studio project template. If we look in the serialization folder, you will notice that the YAML is also automatically generated, where I use some of the standard GUIDs here as the GUIDs for the items it should generate. So this means that if everything works, you can actually just sync this into Sitecore, and you have your template folders and rendering folders for this module. Now I presume that it has finished with npm install. It did. We can just, if you look at the empty Helix module, then we can actually select which layer it should be created on, and you will notice here the module namespace. The suggestion rule I made here is, let's say, my client name dot foundation dot range. No, it shouldn't be foundation, it should be a feature, and then it changes the suggestion automatically, except if I have, I can of course override it if I want to. Yeah. This drop down here is in the template manifest. Helix clean module here, defined as a input type selection, and then it has a range of options which can have both a name and a value if the name is not the same as the value. Yeah, let's see, I've spent 52 minutes now, so I will just show you real quickly how to create a new token. We take and copy paste the Sitecore version, and we call it my token. Display name is my token, and then yeah, no validation type or anything, just like that. It is required, and the default value is something. And then let's see, I'm gonna make a new, what should I make? Just to show the example, under code, I make a new file called mytoken.txt, and in mytoken.txt, I'm gonna write my token a couple of times, and hi. And going back to Visual Studio, closing this, opening it again, just Yes, okay. And empty Helix module. Now you will notice I have a my token something. Module name, that's fine. I'm gonna write la 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 and press OK. This is of course not attached to the project because then I also have to add it to the CS project file. I didn't do that, but it did generate the text file which says la 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 la. This means that you can easily extend these templates. You can make your own module templates that fit to your solutions. You can even pick a different solution root or template root. Oh, that means this root up here. You can have a different for your different clients or your different type of solutions and so on. You can even have all your templates on a network share if you want that. Creating a new template is as simple as copy pasting my template like that. And just to ensure that we can see this is a new template, I'm gonna give it a different name, my own module, like that. And you can actually also, you can have multiple projects, which means you can also have your TDS projects, you can have your test projects, you can have whatever. You can make a template type with tests and a template type with yeah, whatever you want. And going back to Visual Studio, now if I say new, I need an open solution because it's a works projects. Here we go. This is another solution than the one we looked at before, but that doesn't matter. New project, and hopefully I will see my new template when I'm opening here. My own module here. That was the template that we generated before. That was it. I will go back to my presentation and wrap up now real quickly. So, quick recap. Helix is a set of conventions. The conventions are based on some principles that help you govern and manage the stability and dependencies in your solutions. And some of these conventions are a whole lot easier to follow if you have the right tooling. The right tooling is, I hope, this new Visual Studio extension that I made, which will very soon be on Visual Studio extensions and updates. Yeah, I hope this will help you follow the conventions. If you want to learn more, if you want to learn Helix, there's the online documentation. Sitecore Services offers some great courses with really, really great material. Or yeah, and then there's all the examples that you can find out there. For example, Habitat. If you want coaching, workshops, and or assistance, then you are more than welcome to write me. Some really quick links and resources. There's the link to the GitHub of the Visual Studio extension I just showed you. It's called laub+co.helix.vs templates. Then there's, of course, Sitecore on GitHub, Habitat, but also the Sitecore.demo group and Sitecore.demo.retail repositories that you should take a look at. Laub+co.net, I have some very old blog posts from 2015, from before it was called Helix. Back then we called it modular architecture, and before that we called it component architecture, but it is the exact same thing if you can yeah, ignore the names. And then last but not least, in the bottom there's a link to the courses that is offered by Sitecore Services EMEA. Mike just asked if the name Helix will change again. I cannot answer that. I didn't change the name in the first place. Questions and feedback. It's question time. Anyone has any questions? Any questions?
Many thanks, Anders. It was a really informative and a very nice session. Guys, we can post your questions in chat window, or you can ask directly.
I just want to say excellent presentation, Anders.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Anders is quite active on Twitter and LinkedIn. So stay connected with him and we can collaborate further. And guys, let me go ahead and share my screen. We would like to wrap it up with the closing ceremony. All right.
Stop sharing. Stop sharing. So,
all right.
Yes.
Anyone having any question? Please, please feel to ask. Guys, if anyone having any question, please feel to ask to Anders.
If you don't have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact me. Contact me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Slack.
Yeah, Ashish has one question. Go ahead, Ashish. And when it is available in the Visual Studio extension?
I just made some. I made some last-minute changes just before the presentation. And when I have tested these, I will release it to visualstudio.com. I will announce it on Twitter and everywhere. Yeah, right now the templates are. If you would like to beta test, then drop me a message. Preferably on the Sitecore Slack channel. Then I can send you the Visual Studio extension installer, and then you can file out.
All right. All right, guys, special thanks to everyone who have devoted their time for this informative session. Guys,
there is another question. If I have used the Helix principles on a project with multiple source control repositories, yes. And a concept that actually shows this real good is if you look at the sitecore.demo.group implementation that shows you how you can make a solution built into a habitat solution, you can say. Yeah, habitat is still the primary repo and primary solution, but you build your solution into it, and these modules reside in a different repo. You can also divide differently, so you have all your foundation modules in a separate repo, and build these into package feed and then include via packages and multiple different solutions and so on. There's many strategies.